the rod of his anger. Have you seen your neighbors today? If you have this feeling that you are more chosen than them, go back to Isaiah 10. You know, John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son." The apple in God's eyes is not a particular group, but the world. But if you think that because we are in a very exclusive faith, we believe that we are the apples of God's eyes, and the rest of those who don't have this relationship with God, those who we sometimes call pagans, those who we sometimes call lost, sometimes we even divide this with, people who don't receive this light that we receive. And we always see them from a very different light. We are the chosen. And brothers and sisters, if we have that mentality, let's go back to Isaiah 10, because God has a special place for Assyria. Our neighbors, they might be coming from a very different background from us. But God could also choose them in a very specific task that he would not choose us. This is a very mind-boggling and shocking news for Israel. And not only that, they have seen it happen. They have seen Assyria prospered while Israel lost all of their earnings and their lands and their princesses and princes. They saw how Israel and Judah deteriorate while Assyria flourish. They saw that. In this time, they are now under the captivity of Assyria. God has chosen Assyria. Now, if in this world you're wondering why my neighbor who is into, whatever accusation you may think, maybe this big house, is it possible that they are also doing something illegal? Is it possible that they are crooked? Is it possible that they are practicing, something that is not actually in accordance with the plan of God? How come they are so blessed? And how come here I am, still struggling and suffering? The chosen first people of God. Now, brothers and sisters, we don't have any explanation. Again, God believes that the world is the apple of his eye. And if we start making division, let us always think that even Assyria is chosen of God. The next thing here that I'd like us to think about, something that we can learn from this passage, is that in verse 20, remnant is not actually a status. A remnant is actually a result of a procedural circumstances that makes this big group eventually boils down to a very small group of people, and therefore they can be called now the remnant. Sometimes we think being on God's side is a status. Again, I grew up in an Adventist faith. I have to admit that my youth is not as challenging as those who decided to go outside the faith and then come back, met different kinds of, vices and friends and in life. Colorful, sometimes when I was listening to those kind of testimonies, I was saying, man, these people are not ashamed of the gospel of Christ. They can tell their story straightforward and uplift Christ at the same time. What will I tell? That I've been in church for my entire life, that I never drank a sip of alcohol or a stick of cigarette, or I never gambled or things like that. What kind of boring life is that? But I'm afraid to tell and share some of the experience I have when I was so envious of others. I never actually share some of my experiences when I was so angry with the people that I love in my life. You know, it is actually this gospel that I shouldn't be ashamed of. I'm not quite sure if it's really sometimes, reaching the very core of my heart in here. But sometimes I am so proud to boast that, hey, but I am a remnant. I am a remnant. This is the remnant church. Sometimes I only see is arrogance and that the willingness to share to the world what Christ has done for me. I embrace the status, but again, the word remnant in Isaiah 10 is not a status. It's a result of a process. Now, the way I understand being a remnant growing up as Adventist is this. Because I keep Sabbath, here are the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and have the faith of Jesus. And there are only few people who do this. Therefore, we consider ourselves the remnant. But if I go back to Isaiah 10, remnant of what? In our very short history, denominational history, in 1844, there was no actually persecution happened in this denomination. In Isaiah 10, the context of remnant is there was both religious and political persecution. But he said, oh, no, something happened to us. Go back to the time of Martin Luther. Go back to the time of Huss and Jerome. Go back to the time of John Wycliffe. Go back to the time even of the Dark Ages. But again, that's how many generations ago. If I assume and presume that their suffering, the result of their suffering is my faith, I think that's too much big of an assumption. If we go back to the Bible, generation after generation, there is this cycle of oppression and persecution so that a remnant would come out. If I would say, I am a result of the faith of Martin Luther and the faith of John Wycliffe and the faith of Huss and Jerome, that is their faith. I don't know what would happen to me if all of a sudden my family will be taken. I don't know that yet. I don't know what will happen to me if right in front of me my kids will be persecuted. God forbid, will be murdered. I don't know. I cannot say that, praise God, now I know I'm a remnant, because after that process, I discovered myself that I am still standing before God. Brothers and sisters, the remnant in Isaiah 10 is not a status. It is a result of a process. If we believe, by the way, I believe there will be remnant. But I think it's too boastful for me to embrace simply because I keep the Sabbath holy that I call myself remnant already. What was the process? Was I a result of a consecutive, trying, terrible process that would qualify myself to say, yes, I am a remnant? Now, if you say, sometimes we teach, but the Lutheran decided to stick with keeping the Sunday, as well as Wycliffe, as well as, so it's no longer them, but it's us now who continues the truth because we decided to keep Saturday. We are living in the land of the free, unless, brothers and sisters, we are persecuted by what we believe. I think we don't have the confidence to claim that we are a result of such persecution, that we can claim the blessedness of what's being persecuted like. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake. If we are a result of that experience, then we can boldly claim that. But if we are not there yet, we are hopeful and we are spectators and praying that maybe you'll be qualified to be called that. So, what I learned from Isaiah 10 is this. Going back to the first and second points, okay? Assyria may not be me. And I don't have to look down at all the Assyrians in my life right now. They might be ethnically different from me. They could be Jewish, they could be Asian, they could be black, they could be Islamic, they could, I don't have the authority to qualify the kind of experience that they have as chosen individuals. God has a personal dealing with them. Number 2, I can exalt myself simply because I am in a denomination that I believe in the future, not now, in the future, will be called the shining light of God because we are tested and tried. I believe in that, but to claim that I'm already a result of that is too much an ambitious kind of, stance for me. So, going back to the Acts, when God was speaking to Assyria. So what do we do then? How do we continue in this faith? I might not be an Assyrian, but I consider myself slaves of the Assyrians, the remnant. What do I do now? What I learned from this is just, it is so sweet to trust in Jesus, our opening song here. But do I really know that? Do I really know that? As the one who is being used by God, if I was an axe or a saw, it doesn't matter. What matters is I am in the hands of God. But can I really trust? Can I really trust the hand who is holding the axe? Without getting any credit. Whether, if I may be an Assyrian, who knows? Or I may be the remnant. Without knowing my own value outside Christ. It is enough as long as I trust the hands of this, the ones holding the axe. Can I humbly trust the Lord? In the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, he says, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. What does that mean? If you listen to this prayer, there is trust in here. Because if you are an instrument, you don't claim. The masterpiece is God's, you are just an instrument. Trust. Can Assyria trust that God is the God and not him? Can the people of Israel, you see, this is a very tumultuous and very difficult process for Israel to see all the 10 tribes actually dissipate and only 2 tribes remain during the time of Assyria. That's a painful. You see people dying, you see people assimilating in Assyrian culture, and only 2 tribes remain, the remnant. But can you still trust God that this process is His? In our life today, you have many prayers in life. Can you still trust God even though you don't understand the answers for your prayers? You've been asking, Lord, please heal me from this disease. I have this for 30 years now. But the answer is zip. Can you still trust God? Can you still claim yourself to be the instrument? If you are just like Assyrian, given the power, to rule over others, can you resist the temptation of believing that you are God and yet allowing God to still use you as His instrument? Lord, make me an instrument of Thy peace. Whenever I see my mom and my dad, I don't have any answer, any idea. I ran out of idea when I see them lying in bed with a meaningless life. I was wondering, Lord, can I continue to trust you if I was them? Can I continue to trust you that I can still be your instrument when life seems so meaningless? But if you continue in, at least as I close this, in the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, let me sow love when there is hatred. Or when there is hatred, let me sow love. I want us all to trust God and trust the seed. The prayer doesn't ask us to give flowers, fully bloom, just a seed. Okay? Trust that, brothers and sisters. As an instrument, we know that we are not God. He is the powerful God, and we are just an instrument. Let us trust that if we continue to believe in the seeds that we leave here and there, brothers and sisters, it will conquer everything, even hatred, even injury, and every other thing in the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi, because we are in the hands of God. If we believe in Him and not in us, I believe our life in this world will be a blessing to many.